I'm Jason with the All Things Open team. I'm here with Shashank. We're going to talk about GPUs, scaling AI, and more. Shashank, please introduce yourself to the All Things Open community and welcome.
Thank you so much, Jason. Pleasure to be here. Shashank. I work as a machine learning engineer at Walmart. I've been in this domain for almost 10 years now, working at different companies. My focus has been mostly around scaling large-scale AI solutions and in a variety of different problems, be that building out the recommendation systems or search engines, and now at Walmart, different retail solutions. So yeah, excited to be here. Thank you for having me.
Well, we're going to get right into it. So you're passionate about making AI more efficient. Before we get there, how did you get involved with machine learning and what excites you about the topic?
Yeah, to be very honest, I inched my way into the domain. I come from academically a math background, and I still remember there was an article by Harvard back in 2012, which basically called data science to be the sexiest job of 21st century, and that sort of piqued my interest. Let me understand, what is it all about? And as I started to learn more of it, talking to different colleagues, it kind of started to make a lot of sense in terms of my love for numbers and patterns, and sort of that's how I entered into the domain in itself.
Really cool. I want to dive deeper into large-scale AI models, and I imagine we're going to talk about AI compute. So to give the audience context, what is a GPU?
So think about GPU as a processing engine. Very much like CPU, it is the very fundamental unit on where the processing happens. Now, how it differs basically is a lot of operations, or pretty much majority of operations on GPU, are parallel in nature. And so the devices in itself were built for primarily gaming industry. So you have a lot of renderings that happens in the game, and those needs to happen close to real time, and GPU really excelled in that domain. But over the past decade or so, again, when you think about deep learning, the rise of deep learning and the calculation that comes with the deep learning has been really accelerated by leveraging GPUs for that. So it's essentially a processing engine that does a lot of things in parallel.
Great, thanks for explaining that. What are some of the challenges we're facing with large-scale AI models?
Quite a few today as we speak. I think the very first thing that comes to mind is the computational scale. Again, I think for the past 10 years, we have seen the model parameters that have grown almost 3 times now. And there's also been a tremendous influx of data volume. And so when we think about the computational need to be able to train this model, to be able to use them for inference, that has certainly been a challenge and an ongoing struggle that we have today. The other part of it is also, as more and more models are becoming complex, there is a concern, or rather a growing concern, when it comes to transparency and ethics and bias, and how do we make sure we understand how the models have come to different decisions that they are taking. So I think at the very moment, 2 things that comes to mind for me is the computational need and the ethical concerns as it pertains to the large-scale models.
And why isn't bigger always better when it comes to AI? What are some of the trends you're seeing that make AI more sustainable?
Yeah, so again, I think the very naive way to think about it is usually more data, better models, and as you put in more data into your model training, it requires more computational resources to do that. Now, while it can work in some scenarios, you can also be smarter about it, in the sense, do you really need all the data that you're using? Is it really going to help improve the model performance? Simultaneously, from an architectural standpoint, are you making your model design to be as efficient as it can be? The very nature of performance that you're extracting with your current architecture, can you extract that by using a more efficient approaches to do that? So again, it's not necessarily that you don't want to have large models, but as you scale, you want to scale it smartly, so that when you think about the carbon footprint that these computational resources are putting on, they can essentially be minimized or alleviated at the very least.
Great explanation. Thanks so much. There's a lot of discussion about AI's role in development. Do you think AI will replace developers?
To be honest, had wished there's a crystal ball out there that I could look into, but I think at the moment it's not, I would consider it to be as a replacement for developer, but it's certainly an assistant tool that has improved productivity a lot in different areas, be that writing the unit tests, or be that if there is a boilerplate application that needs to be built out. So I clearly see a lot of benefits coming out in that usage, but again, there's a lot to be seen in the future, so we'll know. But I think at this point, it's not necessarily a replaceable thing.
I can't wait for some of the new job titles. They look really cool. Not that I want one. No, so What's a new tool that you've been using to help boost your productivity lately?
Yeah, I've been trying out a lot of different IDEs with plugins when it comes to the coding assistants. Now, those assistants kind of are coming in different forms. So, have been leveraging open source models that have been tuned for coding, and then you can further build upon that to essentially make it tailored to your need, how exactly you want the unit tests to be, or if you want a certain functions to be written in a certain way. So, have been playing around with that lately, I think for some time now.
Do you have a favorite so far?
I would say the Star Coder 2 by Hugging Face is something that I've been exploring lately.
Okay,
Yeah.
great. What's one tip, best practice, or a piece of advice you'd like to share with the All Things Open community?
Yeah, I think one, from an overall framework standpoint, try to see there are a lot of open source tools that are available out today, which is really great for you to be able to carry out a lot of work that you're doing. The second thing is try to find the value in the work that you're doing, not just trying to kind of do a fancy things for the sake of doing a fancy thing. And simultaneously try to see things more from a responsible perspective as well. There's a lot of happening for all the good reasons, but is it happening from a responsible perspective would be another tip I would have for the practitioners.
Well, Shashank, thanks for your time today. We really appreciate it, and thanks for being in the studio.
Yeah, likewise, Jason. Thanks for having me.